Today on Dad Hut, we're going to talk about skiing versus snowboarding as a beginner. Which one's easier? Let's find out. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Dad Hut. Today, I'm going to be talking about my experience as a complete beginner to skiing and snowboarding and which one is easier as a beginner. I am in the thick of it right now. Most videos you find online, it's from somebody who's been doing either skiing or snowboarding for many, many years, and they're trying to compare it. I am a complete beginner. I have done 4 days skiing and 4 days snowboarding, and I've had completely different experiences. And I'd like to just get those thoughts out, and maybe this could help somebody who's looking to do one of these two or pick which one they want to do for their first time. So this is obviously just what my experience has been. I grew up in Florida, born and raised my whole life. I never did any snowboarding or skiing because we didn't have snow. I moved out to Idaho and decided to pick that up and try it for the first time here in my early 40s. This will obviously vary depending on your age and skill level. But for me, I've usually picked up sports pretty quickly and have excelled, like I said, very quickly at most sports. So I was hoping to kind of do the same thing, even though I am a little later in age to be learning snowboarding or skiing. So that's where I'm coming from. This could be different for everybody, but I just at least wanted to get that out there so you know where I'm coming from. So I'm going to go through all 4 days, but what I will say is stick around for the whole thing because day 1 is not the way the story ends. By day 4, it is a completely different story. So stick around for the whole thing and I'll explain to you why that is and which one is probably right for you depending on who you are. Day 1, completely different experiences from skiing and snowboarding. Skiing was much easier for me. On day 1, I was able to stand up immediately, go right up the first chairlift, which was the bunny hill, but it is a chairlift. Did not fall getting off the chairlift. Was able to go down the mountain. Couldn't control which way I was going, but again, it was an easy hill, so it didn't really matter much. And I had a generally good day. I was doing it. I was skiing. So I had a great time. I don't think I ever fell one day at all. I used my poles a lot. I was kind of like that guy going down, dragging his poles into the ground, thinking that was slowing him down somehow. But basically, I got up on the ski lift, went down, straight down the hill, and it was flat enough at the bottom that I would just run out of speed, and that's how I was stopping. But I had a great time. I was not hurt, sore, nothing. It was super easy. Again, sticking to the bunny hill. And yeah, I had a pretty good first experience and my confidence was pretty high. Now, snowboarding, completely different day 1. I fell all day, every day. I mean, I just literally hurt every single muscle and bone in my body. It was not fun experience. I mean, it was grueling and it was tough. Just getting on the chairlift was a little harder, but getting off the chairlift was much harder on snowboard than skis. Sitting down to strap yourself in every single run was, exhausting for somebody who's probably out of shape, but much different than skiing. You get off the mountain and you just go. And snowboarding, every single time I was having to sit down and strap in before I go. My first day skiing, I felt comfortable enough to strap a GoPro and film myself skiing. Snowboarding, I couldn't stand up for more than 3 seconds before falling and catching an edge. And this is, again, sticking strictly to the beginning area, and I just had a really rough time day 1, which I kind of knew that going into it. Hearing from everybody and talking to everybody, it sounded like snowboarding was going to be much harder day 1. Moving on to day 2, skiing was kind of similar to day 1. I just kind of went up the mountain and went down the beginning hill. I only stuck to the beginning hill again. I went with friends who was trying snowboarding, and he had never done it before, so he was falling all day, and it was kind of more of a laugh fest of just kind of watching somebody try to learn. it was a good experience. Again, I don't think I fell. If I did, it was maybe once, and it was kind of like at the bottom of the hill. But yeah, it was super confident just going down the bunny hill. Super easy to maneuver around. I guess to get to the lift and kind of get to the lodge if I wanted to break. Using your poles was certainly a big advantage over snowboarding. But yeah, I didn't really get any better, but I didn't get any worse. I had a good experience, again, sticking strictly to the bunny hill, and that's important because later on we will see where that gets me with skiing. Day 2 for snowboarding, again, very rough. Better than day 1, but still very, very rough. Falling a lot, learning to go on my heel side and my toe side, and just falling immediately after doing that. Again, it was not a pleasant experience for day 2. Very, very sore the next day. I highly suggest wearing butt pads and knee pads and wrists and things like that, wrist guards if you can. Obviously, if you're younger, you're probably going to bounce right back. But for somebody like me, it was pretty rough the next couple days, just being so sore from falling so much and having to lift myself up and constantly having to roll myself over so I could stand back up on the snowboard. Very, very tough. But again, at least I feel like I was, progressing a little bit in snowboarding on day 2. Not much, falling a lot. But I could definitely see a difference between day 1 and day 2, whereas skiing day 1 and day 2 were kind of the same. So moving on to day 3. And this is kind of where things really started to shift for both of them. Skiing, I was getting kind of, a little bored with the beginner slope, they call it the coach. And I wanted to try something, a little different. I thought I kind of had the hang of it. And I learned really quickly I didn't. Doing the pizzas down the mountain works on a very mellow slope, but when you get onto something a little bit steeper, not so much. And I learned that, pretty quickly. So went up to a much more difficult run, not much more difficult, I guess a blue square, and tried to go down the mountain like I was on the beginner hill, doing, my little french fries and pizza, and didn't work. It was too steep, and I was picking up speed like crazy, and I was going super fast, and there was a lot of room in front of me to where I was only going to get to go faster. And so I made a business decision, and I fell down on purpose at a very high speed. Thankfully didn't get hurt, but I felt it was the best thing that I could do, considering that there was still so much room in front of me that I was only going to get to go faster and faster and faster. So I did that, and then quickly realized that I needed to learn how to turn and do S's and stop, and that the pizza was not enough. So I spent the rest of the day back at the beginner hill trying to work on that. Day 3 for snowboarding was a huge jump from day 1 and day 2. I was starting to understand how to do it. I was kind of understanding what I need to do to control my speed, to go right, to go left, to slip slide down the mountain. And by no means was I, doing great, but I certainly was understanding it more than skiing at this point. The first 2 days, like I said, were very rough, but that third day something clicked, and I was able to go on my heel side and toe side pretty normally without falling very much at all on day 3, and just kind of controlling myself down the beginner hill instead of just bombing it straight down. So this is, like I said, day 3 is kind of where I realized that there were, my progression in snowboarding was actually moving forward, and my progression in skiing was kind of still day 1. Day 4, kind of the same story as day 3. I went back to the beginner hill on skiing and tried to work on some turning and kind of controlling my speed, and I just wasn't getting good at it. I was still being able to pizza down the mountain and kind of control my speed, but turning left, turning right, yes, I could do a little bit of it, but it was very long turns, not anything quick if I needed to avoid anything. And again, controlling my speed without pizzas was not something I was able to do on day 4. Obviously that can vary by the person, but day 4 for me was really kind of like day 1. Again, if I stuck to the beginner hill and just kind of went down and up, down and up, down and up, I'd probably have a pretty good day, but I would have to stick to that beginner hill. And that's kind of it. My progression from day 1 to day 4, minimal. And maybe that's on me. I probably should have done some lessons, or, did some more research or took some advice, but, I thought day 1, my confidence was so high that I was getting it, but really I wasn't getting it. I was just going down the mountain, getting up. Wasn't really learning the actual basics of skiing. So day 4 for snowboarding, again, just a huge jump from day 1 to day 4. I was starting to link turns, starting to, really decide where I want to go down the mountain, which line I wanted to take. I even did some of the blue squares, and while I'm certainly not, an intermediate rider or going down, flawlessly, I'm certainly able to stop when I want to stop, go right when I want to go right, go left when I want to go left. And I'm getting there after 4 days of snowboarding. Whereas with skiing, I just kind of am stuck in day 1. So that's kind of where I am for the first 4 days. I would highly recommend, if you're going to go on a winter trip or a vacation, or you're going, just like to Colorado for 1 day or 2 days and you want to just try it, I'm going to say go skiing and stick to the bunny hill. I think you'll have a much better experience. Snowboarding is for somebody who is not going to quit. If you're a quitter, things don't come easy to you. I don't think snowboarding's for you, because you're probably going to have a pretty rough first or second day, and you really want to stick with it to get it, because the progression will come. But again, that first day or 2 is really rough. Again, so if you're just going for 1 or 2 days, I say go skiing for sure. If you're going to actually commit to something, you can pick either one. But if you're somebody who quits easily or gives up easily, snowboarding might not be for you, because you're going to have a rough time. And you probably end up quitting and going to skiing anyways. So that's kind of where I am with it. After 4 days, again, I'm a complete beginner. I can't tell you anything. I'm not here to give you any tips about how to become a better snowboarder or skiing, because I am a complete beginner, and I wanted to at least give that perspective to people from somebody that is in my shoes. A couple of tips I will say, just as a beginner, is buy the beginner lift ticket. In most mountains, you can buy a ticket that just gives you the beginning area, and you can save tons of money, because you're not going to go explore the entire mountain day 1. At least I don't think you should. You should stick to the beginner area. Save you a ton of money, and is probably where you need to be day 1 and probably even day 2. The other thing is boots. I will say that snowboarding is much easier to walk around the lodge and areas with snowboard boots. They're more like regular shoes or just really heavy boots, as opposed to walking in ski boots are not the easiest thing to at least maneuver stairs and things like that with. So there are a couple advantages day 1 to, snowboarding, walking around the lodge, again, going to the bathroom, whatever you need to do is easier to walk around in. So those are kind of the things that I found as a complete beginner. I hope this video did help you out, at least gave you some insight into what my experience was as a complete beginner to both sports. And if it did help you out, give it a like, thumbs up, subscribe so you don't ever miss any of these videos, and we'll see you on the next one, guys.